Not bad. I was healthy. I was lonely. We're talking about maybe the 1940s, the early 1940s. Arizona, the desert, a little white house with a rose garden by the side, surrounded by about a 15-foot hedge of oleander. I know you have it in Brazil, oleander, but maybe not by that name. If you were at the door of the White House, you saw grass, little bit of grass, and then a wall of oleander. Do you not know oleander? Does that word not work? It has olive green or dark green leaves, very sharp, pointed, lots of them, and it puts out white and red flowers, depending, different kinds, and it grows very easily. It's poisonous to eat. The flowers have multi petals,
It's
like
like
lots of. Anyway, so that was it. That you couldn't see the outside world. There was a nice, comfortable inside world. The house was very small. It contained uh, three aunts, my mother and father, and my grandmother, and eventually my little brother. Two bedrooms. Behind the house was a garage, a big garage, bigger than the house. Behind that were some lots, um, not used. Then there was a very big uh, grape arbor, green sweet grapes, a
that's
screen
true.
house where the extra sisters lived, the extra aunts slept, where the extra aunts slept. Remember, I said there were all these aunts, and there was only two bedrooms in the house. Then there was more land not used, and then there was a huge chicken yard filled with chickens. That was the beginning of my childhood, and then we started moving.
Yes.
Um, I guess the house got too crowded, and my parents gave the house to my grandmother and the aunts, and they moved to another town in Arizona, high forested area called Prescott. Uh,
Uh,
there, my father was drafted into the war. We went to Prescott. My dad was drafted. My mother had a job. I spent the days in daycare. Then I started going to school. All of this happened beside the same street, the school, the daycare, the home. And in those days, um, there was no worry about children being alone in the street. Actually, went all over the town by myself. So there you have it. That's the beginning of it. We moved again and again after that. By the time I left home, I think we had lived in 21 houses in four different cities, four different schools, and four different sets of friends, and being a stranger four times. The beginning of Gravity has to do with uh, remembering flying in an airplane with my father before the war, his service. This was before his service. Um, was one of the things I remember about him, where he was trying to broaden my life, but he wasn't there very much. In fact, and he went again to war for the Korean War in the 50s, and then
As
he
it,
got a job as in the police. He worked very hard. He always worked very, very hard, which is a habit of his that I don't have. As though genetically I didn't get that gene. Also, my mother worked very hard. Maybe I just didn't accept that this was what life was about. And so when I was 18, I had studied dance a little bit. And I had been a gymnast, and my parents had another baby, and I realized it was time to go. And the only place I wanted to go was to dance. Moved from Arizona to New York City and found a place to live and found a job. End of childhood. But the beginning of something very nice, which was dance. I danced in New York for several different companies and several different choreographers. I began to get some sense of what they thought dance was. That's, I was curious. What do people think dance is? And I think this relates directly to my childhood. The next part where I stopped dancing for other dancers and started looking for my own dance. I think it relates directly to my childhood in that I had to invent how to play. I had to invent how to, we lived on farms, far from other people sometimes, or in neighborhoods where I didn't know the games, or, anyway, so that's why I said I was lonely. I wasn't exactly alone, but but I think sorry, Pedro, if I go too long, just raise your hand. I'll stop. So when I got to New York, I started looking for my own way to play. I'm not an advocate of self-learning in dance because I think dance is too strange of an idea to figure out by yourself. Plus, it's a very rare human who has the discipline to learn movement. It's just a very difficult job. Any kind of movement discipline is useful. Tai Chi, ballet, modern dance, capoeira, anything where you are caused to try to perceive the movement of the body. So I think that's a very useful period. For me, it started when I was about 16, and I kept studying until I was about 25. But on the other hand, I'm very much an advocate of the dancer not being passive. With what you have learned and understood from the world of dance and what areas you find to enlarge on everything you've learned, you have a good chance of becoming an artist who can understand the dance culture and beyond the dance culture. I think every drop of dance on this planet is valuable, but I think there's more. That's my childhood up till now. Drops of dance.